There's to be a demonstration outside Coventry's council house later in protest at a meeting being held there about the idea of a combined authority for the West Midlands region. The leader of the City Council is meeting other local authority leaders to discuss the possibility of joining together.
I think it would be reasonable to say the Germans would like their money back.
Absolutely.
And personally, I can't see the German government, Mrs Merkel, being so willing to change the terms of repayment or writing off part or all of that loan. So it's, who's going to give in first? I don't think that's quite true, actually. There are a lot of people who are struggling in this country today, really are struggling. And we may have austerity that is limited, perhaps, or, not so deep as Greece, but a lot of people are being affected. They are struggling. And more than anything, they simply want to be listened to. And I think the next general election will be absolutely fascinating and will be partly determined, the outcome will be determined by politicians and parties who come up with policies of fairness and justice.
Very good. Thank you very much, Mark. Well said.
Now, as I see it, the European Commission is trying to influence European job seekers to look at Britain, as this country has one of the lower joblessness rates compared to other European countries. Now, many would see that as a useful resource, but if UK employers are seeking via this service lower skilled workers from within the EU instead of seeking people from the UK, then that puts pressure on the jobs market here.
Are you pulling up the drawbridge, Mark?
No, this is not pulling up the drawbridge. If that's a sort of cheap reference to immigration, immigrants contribute to this country. Fact. They do. They contribute to this city. Fact.
Then real uproar with this question from The Telegraph.
Are you happy that the only black face in the document is on the overseas aid page?
A group of black candidates rose together, while other UKIPers shouted shame and disgraceful.
Vote UKIP. Believe in Britain. Vote UKIP. Vote UKIP. Your vote counts. Vote UKIP. Be the change.
What is perhaps even more frightening here is, had it not been for some of the faith and church communities in this city, the situation might be a lot worse for the people. And obviously I realise that some of the food stock is coming from a sort of variety of sources. But to think if they weren't there...
They want to engage with the council, but they feel that the contact isn't quite there, and they want to suggest sort of solutions. Just a simple thing like reporting something. Years ago, you used to be able to phone up the council and you used to be able to get the individual department. Now you've got what is effectively a call centre. And have you tried phoning?
The fear of privatisation of the NHS. It's the cruel under-occupancy charge that people... We want to see that go. UKIP would scrap it.
Right.
It's about housing, because there's a big issue in Coventry about Greenbelt and a proposed local housing development. Right. 0 hours contracts. It's stuff like that. It's survival. I know of some good people within UKIP who need to be, how can I put it, released to the public. Because one difficulty with the smaller parties is that sometimes some of the media concentrate on elected party members. Smaller parties have actually got people in position as spokespeople ready to deliver their message, yet they're not always given that opportunity to deliver that message.
If the government of the day were to sit in Coventry, Coventry would become the capital of the UK.
It sounds quite appealing, doesn't it, Phil? Well, let's face it, this is about practicalities and use of public funds. Whatever the final amount is, doesn't it seem rather more sensible to perhaps have a rethink and say, where could we move to in the country that is a permanent building? There are some on the, not perhaps the centre-left, but the hard left, who would love to see it go. I think this is going to be frightening times, Danny, really. It'll go beyond nuclear deterrence. It'll go into areas such as, some on the hard left would love to abolish faith schools, private schools. This is going to be a difficult period. Someone took a photo of me and I put it up on social media. A gentleman recognised me in the middle of the city centre a few weeks later, and he came up to me and he said simply, "How dare you?" he said. That was his starting point. I said, sorry. And he said, "How dare you go along to that particular event and get yourself involved with that community?" I was stunned.
Just before he walked away, he said, "You've made the right move, Mark. We may have political differences here, but they're good people, and I think you'll fit in well round here. Everyone gets on well, and let me assure you, this is fun." That was the last time that Mark Taylor had a chat with him, which is a lovely memory.
I would imagine a lot of people in South Coventry would actually like to see a southern relief road. I realise what I'm suggesting there is
more roadworks.
Well, not roadworks, but a major route underneath Coventry, the south side.
Why did you come down?
I think I wanted to just spend a few moments just to respect and just remember those people that have fought for you and I to sit here on these steps tonight in safety and freedom. I think that's great. I mean, I'm in favour of that policy, the opportunity, giving people the opportunity.
Well, there is an argument, of course, that if you can afford to buy a house, then go off and buy a house, but don't buy the council property and leave that council property for those who can't afford to buy their own house.
Maybe, but I think the idea of giving someone a property at a reduced price, I think, is favourable, as long as we do replace those houses that we've sold off.
Ah, then that's the big but.
Which we will be doing.
We've got lots of stories to get through.
How will you remember Jimmy Hill?
Small childhood memories for me is my dad lifted me up and put me on his shoulders so I could see him above the crowd. And I can remember waving to Jimmy and my dad saying, "That's Jimmy Hill." And this small instant where Jimmy Hill came across towards the fans from his car and he caught his coat on a wide fence just in the corner and just sort of rip, and it sort of with a great big smile on his face, you know, he waved to me, and I remember the crowd going "way," and he just got in the car and drove off. And it's a silly childhood memory, but it's a sort of an affectionate one of you know, my younger days going to football matches.